podcast is episode 4, I believe, of our New World of Darkness Vampire the Masquerade campaign. Joining me today are Raul Shad Viano-Feroth, and Williams. And I am the storyteller, Shogun. You can find this podcast on BitChute, and you can on the Discord server. Welcome, my friends. Let's do the same thing we did last time. Have you guys your memory of your last part of the story. Who would like to go first?
We're
going to start with a Bible verse each time. Does anyone have a Bible verse appropriate? Maybe something about the Nephilim or something.
What? I had such a great one, but I forgot what it was.
Well, how about for those who from the earth came, found the daughters of men fair, and went into them and bore them sons, and they were known as the mighty men, the men of renown, the Nephilim. And that would be from Genesis somewhere. Unless anyone had. We'll get into the Book of Nod and so forth later, and maybe quote that as well. But that being said, who wants to give their character summary first?
I can.
Go ahead, Michael.
So, in the last session, I remember distinctly that there was a third and final embrace. That there was 2 in that session, 1 in the session before, between him and his Osiris, Litu. And then he discovered more about the rules and proceedings of the masquerade that goes on from not just Litu, but Litu's, I guess, sire, known as Big Claw or something. And then there was another character introduced, which name was Shad, who was someone who also worked with Gamariev, just come from a different group. And then, my character ends up having to say goodbyes to his the lady who turned him, so that he can go off with Shad to learn more about the masquerade, the etiquette, and how this world of darkness works.
Very well summarized. Shad, can you give us a summary of your character's trajectory so far?
Yes, so Shad is a librarian at the University of Cascadia, and he was called by the Camarilla to investigate a recent turning. Who he discovered later was Michael, had presumably been turned from a human to a vampire, and was sent to the Wild Woods to track down Litu, whose sire is Cogliostri, named Little Claw and Big Claw, I believe, respectively, and their new kindred, Michael. As Shad arrived, Litu was on the verge of unleashing the beast, maddened with psychotic vampiric delight. She was allowing Michael to feed on her blood, and after a short exchange to convince her that it would be prudent to convince the Camarilla power structure in Cascadia City that this turning, albeit unannounced and unapproved, was not going to disrupt the masquerade. And so ultimately Shad convinced her to give Michael, the new vampire, to him for a week to take back to the university and instruct in the basics of keeping the masquerade going.
Very good. So thank you both, and you'll both get 1 extra point of experience every time that you summarize your character trajectory. So that'll be considered 1 point of experience every time. You can mark that down now or at the end of the adventure or the chapter. So you guys are currently still in Park. It's Sunday, the 28th of May, we shall say, 2027. Can you guys still hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yep. Can you hear us?
All right. So you are in the darkness. The trees are like occasional street lanterns, and as you begin leaving the city, leaving the wilderness area that you're in, you notice two children. Looks like one of them is about 7 or 8 years old, and one's about 5 or 6, and they're kind of glowing a little bit strangely, as though they're reflecting the moonlight more than would be normal, and they look kind of almost translucent, you think, and they're sort of playing with each other, and you can hear the echoes of like laughter and like footsteps, but it just doesn't make any sense because it's the middle of the night. It's like 1 or 2 in the morning, and you can see these sort of luminous children playing in the distance for about 30 seconds, and then they kind of just disappear into nothingness. And you follow in the direction,
right?
Yeah, you're in the wildwoods, heading outwards back to the urban center. You're returning to Cascadia University on foot, which is going to take about an hour, just like it did to get here. So you continue to walk past where the children disappeared into the undergrowth, and you return to the road where you had previously seen the black vehicle pursuing you, the one that you used your ritual to make run off the road. And you're continuing to walk back to Cascadia University. Go ahead and roll perception or alertness. Whichever of you guys has the highest, or both of you can roll it.
Oh, also, -1 blood point at the beginning of every... I guess we didn't just wake up, but every time you wake up, I'm going to add
right.
Try to...
Well, you guys should both subtract 1 or 2 blood points for the campaign so far.
Mm-hmm.
Did either of you guys roll alertness or perception?
One sec, I can roll awareness.
Okay, roll awareness with a difficulty of 8.
Alright, one sec, got rolled wrong.
Alright. I only got 1 pass.
You got 1 success. Did you roll 2, Rob?
DC 8, I failed.
Okay. So, Raul, you look about you and see nothing other than the darkness and the trees and the street lamps as you're leaving Wildwood Park back to the urban stretch that connects Wildwood Park to Cascadia University. However, with your keen, newly embraced vampire sights, Michael, you look around and you notice something tailing you. And it's not a human. It's a slouching black dog, you think, but an extraordinarily large dog. And it looks vaguely sinister, and it's kind of slouching behind you about 1.5 blocks, and you can tell it's sort of pursuing you or following you. And again, it's a extremely large, like shaggy black dog that's following you as you continue towards Cascadia University. And at this late hour, there's very few people out on the streets, so it's pretty much a ghost town right now in this particular area.
All right, can I use Sense the Beast to try seeing what this creature might be?
Yes, you can. So you can roll Animal Ken plus Animalism to try and sense the beast, to discern anything about this black, shaggy dog that's following you.
Okay, that'd be 8.
Yeah, you can call it difficulty 8.
I got 8 between Animalism and Animal Kin.
Mm-hmm. So every 8 or higher will be a success.
Nice.
What did you roll?
You got an 8, 7, 5, 9, and 10.
Okay, so 3 successes. So you use the telepathic abilities that were taught to you by your Cyrus, Alita, and you kind of cast your mind into this shaggy, extremely large dog-like creature that's following you in the darkness. And you get a very distinct sense that this is not a normal animal. It has like a human-like intelligence that's keen and feral, but is very clearly not just an animal intelligence. It's looking at you with like a predatory interest and with a deeper sense of knowledge and understanding than you would expect from any wild animal. And also you realize that this is not just a very large dog. This is actually a pure-blooded wolf, 100% lupus wolf, not a dog at all, as you first thought. There shouldn't be any wolves in Wildwood Park. It's not nearly large enough of an urban forest to sustain a wolf population. But for some reason, you can see there's a full-blooded black wolf following you right now up the sidewalk, about a block and a half behind you. And it's intentionally keeping a distance and kind of slouching in the shadows, trying to conceal itself. But you've been able to discern it and read its mind to some extent. And you can tell that it is indeed following you.
I decided to let Shad know about the situation.
I pause a couple steps ahead of Michael, and without being too obvious, I kind of glance back. Say, one of the first rules of the masquerade is to make sure all of the supernatural stuff that you're experiencing and about to experience is not done in the sight of mortals. If this is an enemy, we should take care of it here. Otherwise, we should continue and not fight in the streets. Is this a friend of yours? Gangrel?
No, I do not know who this is.
As you stop to discuss this, you notice that the wolf has approached closer and is sort of has a deep, throaty, like rumbling growl emanating from its chest. And as it approaches you, it begins to undergo some kind of strange, otherworldly transformation where it, in front of your eyes, accumulates mass and its fur grows longer, its bones kind of like crack as it grows bigger. And it becomes like what you would call a dire wolf. Before your eyes, it morphs into a larger, more ferocious, more primordial looking wolf than it was before. And its eyes flash in like what you can perceive as like an intelligent anger as it approaches you, growling and baring its fangs.
I smirk and say, "Get ready. I hope you learned how to use those claws."
I did.
Okay, we'll have everybody roll initiative because this animal is aggressive. This wolf is aggressive towards you, and it's approaching you with its fangs bared, snarling, flashing eyes. It looks like it just has pure like hatred in its eyes towards you as it's approaching. So everybody roll your dexterity plus wit. And we'll say it's with a success rating of 8. That'll be the default success rating for many things. So you guys can roll dexterity plus wit. And I will do the same. Let me get into the right channel.
I got.
So we're using game or World of Darkness rolls. World of Darkness rolls, right?
Sorry, what's the roll again for initiative?
Dexterity plus wit.
I rolled a 7, 1, 9, 6, 6, and 3.
Alright, I got another 3 coming here. Alright, 5, 3, 9, 9, 7, 8, 10, 8.
So count up your successes on a difficulty of 8. Who has the most successes here? This character is going to roll an additional 3 for a total of 8. With a difficulty of 8, she got 0 successes. Dad, you
I got 1, 2, 3, 4, and if you count the 10 twice, it's
yeah.
1,
So you go first, Chad, and then Zoo, and then the wolf.
Okay. All right. Well, there's a couple rules I'm going to read out real quick. Where is it? Spells. Spend a blood point and make a willpower roll against a difficulty equal to the spell's level plus 3. 1 success required path level not success governed power. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to use this I'm gonna use my blood magic spell, so it's 1 point. And there's something else to consider, which is the blood pool, and how that relates to like how many like stat points you can add
Right.
each turn. So I think what I can do is I can actually increase. So willpower roll is what?
Willpower roll. You can roll your willpower to resist things like dominate or presence or other like controls. And
that's just a number of dice equal to how many willpower points you have?
yes, but it's also a pool that you can spend. So you can either use it like an attribute or spend it, and spend 1 point of willpower to automatically resist something like a hypnotism.
Okay.
And you should have by now lost, I think, 2 points of blood over the course of the campaign, Chad, because except you fed on blood when you were in the club and you fed on blood when you were in your office. So I would just say,
I'm net positive too. I went back and listened to the recordings.
yeah. So you can put yourself at 5 or whatever seems reasonable.
I think it's more than that because of.
Okay. What do you think the blood pool is?
I had it written down, but I don't have the notes in front of me. I think because of my generation, it starts higher.
Yeah, that's correct.
I think I start at 6 because of my generation.
Michael has fed 3 times on his Cyrus, so he's not starving for blood at all.
I've got 8 blood points and willpower 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, but I used 1, so I'm down to 6.
Okay, well, say you're both at 6 blood points, because even though Michael fed 3 times, he was drained completely of blood at the point of his transformation, so that put him at 5. That's how much he was restored, and then he's gained 1 more.
So where was this?
So the wolf is approaching you, growling with hatred in its eyes. That it transformed in front of your eyes and accumulated mass and size to become what you could only call a dire wolf, or a larger, more ferocious wolf than you've ever seen. But it's still approaching you, and you rolled the highest initiative. So in your heightened state of kindred alertness, you are now free to act. But what was the
spell so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use my path to cast a level 5 Inferno, which is he has a difficulty at 9 to soak, 3 health levels of aggravated damage per turn. And I'm gonna use a blood point that's necessary. I'm gonna use a willpower to make sure I succeed, and then there's another mechanic to see if I actually hit it in the right direction. So let me go to the book for that part.
So this wolf is going to count as having a stamina of 5, as well as a fortitude of 1. Even though fortitude is a kindred ability, it just represents a Garu ability in this case.
Alright, give me 30 seconds to look up the roll for the Path of Fire thing. Alright, and Thaumaturgy and Lure of Flames. Number of successes determines how accurately the vampire places the flame in its desired location declared before the roll is made. 1 success is all that is necessary to conjure a flame in one hand, while 5 successes places a flame anywhere in the kindred's line of sight. At the storyteller's discretion, a rough rule of thumb, the thaumaturge can accurately place the flame within 10 yards or meters of themselves. So I'm a little bit confused on what the mechanic is. I'm spending a blood point. I would be using a willpower to roll it, but I guess the willpower also lets me place it successfully. So I'm going to place a fifth level. Did the bot cut out or did I cut out?
No, the bot just.
All right, so apologies for the mechanics. Here's what's happening. The wolf is approaching and shifting shape within my line of sight. I turn around and Kamehameha style grab my hands together. Palms actually touch and close, and out comes from that, as I spread them apart, a wide flame in front of me, which I then swirl my hands and shoot my palms together. Level 5 Inferno that costs 1 blood point and 1 willpower. Difficulty 9 to soak the damage for him. 3 health levels of aggravated damage per turn. And so I'm doing it basically right on his head. So this Inferno should be on him, but also the large portion of it kind of in front of him.
Okay, so you're putting an Inferno of fire on and in front of the approaching wolf?
Yes.
Did you roll anything yet?
No, because I'm just using a point of willpower to succeed.
Can you do that for magic? Is that your understanding that you can spend willpower to automatically pass it?
Yeah, willpower says you can spend a point to automatically succeed in any roll.
Okay. All right. So you channel the power of your blood and you expend both a blood point and a willpower point in order to funnel an inferno of heat and fire upon the approaching wolf that's approaching out of the darkness of the Witchy Path in the Wildwood Park. And so she is going to roll, or he or she, whatever this wolf is, you don't know its gender, is rolling a 10 for soaking. So you were doing 3 damage per turn, but she successfully soaked 2 of it. So she took 1 damage from the aggravated damage from the fire. However, she's also going to have to roll a resolve roll, for lack of a better term, to not run, because she's now lit on fire. So she has a power of 7, so we'll roll 7d10. Let me save this. Okay, so difficulty of 8 to resist fleeing from the fire. 1 success, 1 failure, so no successes, and an additional 2. So she got 2 critical failures, 1 critical success. So basically, although the Inferno only scorches her skin and burns away some of her fur, the werewolf or the wolf that's following you, that dire wolf, turns back, snarling, and retreats into the distance, away from the threat of the fire, and basically flees away from the fear of burning. Go ahead.
As it tramples off, I approach the fire to try to begin putting it out.
Okay, you stomp on the remaining fire, but this is an inferno you called down, so there's several areas of brush fire that have ignited and are burning. Even though everything's kind of damp because it's covered in dew and fog, it's your inferno you called down was big enough that several little patches of wood lit on fire and burning now. As you look up, you see the 3 crows and the raven that you saw before, also watching all of this go down quizzically from the top of a tree beside one of the burning trees. They're cawing again, sounds like laughter to you.
I look at Michael somewhat frantically and hastily, looking around towards the city to see if anybody's noticing this, and ask him to help. Michael, can you help me with this?
I decided to try chasing the wolf down and using feral claws.
Okay, so feral claws, I guess you spend a blood point and it automatically activates. Is that what we're basically understanding for disciplines? Or is there a role involved?
No. You always have to spend a blood point to use a discipline. But
right.
You can spend a willpower point to automatically succeed. Otherwise, you have to do a willpower roll.
A willpower roll to use it.
Well, I don't know if it's always a willpower roll, so it depends on the spell and the discipline.
In this case, he's trying to use Protean, right? So how many points of Protean do you have?
2.
We'll say you need 1 success of 7 or higher. Plus, you have to spend 1 blood point.
Okay, and then I get what, 2 rolls because I got 2 in protein.
Yeah.
I can do that.
Okay.
Difficult
The claws
7.
grow automatically in response to the character's desire and can grow from both hands and feet. The transformation requires the expenditure of a blood point, takes a single turn to complete, and lasts for a scene.
Okay.
The character
Perfect.
attacks normally in combat, but the claws inflict strength plus 1 aggravated damage.
All right, so you channel your blood energy and you burn away some of the blood power in your vitae, and you flex your fingers and grow 3-inch long, razor sharp black claws out of all 10 of your fingers and toes. And doing so takes you the duration of your turn. All right.
As I see him not helping it with the fire, I kind of roll my eyes and sigh at my own kind of violation of my own rules of not getting caught. And I just flip open my cell phone very quickly, dial 911, say fire Wild Woods and the nearby street corner, and also give chase to the werewolf. So I'm just going to let me understand the disciplines better. I should have 3 disciplines, right?
Well, you should start with 3 points minimum in disciplines, plus if you boosted it with like freebie points or anything like that.
Right, and all mine is in blood sorcery, so I can't use anything there. I think there's a mechanic that allows anybody to increase stats, but forget about it for now because I don't know what it is.
You can spend a blood point to raise any stat by 1.
All right. Well, I'm going to spend another blood point to increase my dexterity.
Okay.
What's that called, by the way?
That mechanic?
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure, and I believe that because of your high generation, you might even boost yourself more than 1 point per blood point spent. That's right. The blood potence statistic is. So, like, if you know your blood potence, then that's how many points you could raise with the expenditure of 1 point of vitae.
Okay, my blood potence is 6.
Yeah, I don't think it's that you raise 6 that's overpowered, but maybe that's the maximum that you can possibly raise by spending blood points.
I think that's right.
You could spend
it in the chat.
Yeah, so you could spend up to 6 blood points a turn to raise your stat by up to 6 points, but it would cost you 6 blood.
Okay, here's what it is. A player may spend 1 blood point to increase a single physical attribute by 1 dot for the duration of the scene. They must announce at the beginning of the turn that they're doing this. A player may spend as many blood points on increasing physical attributes as the vampire may use in a turn based upon generation, but may only freely increase the traits up to 1 higher than their generational maximum. So for a max for generation 8, I can increase it by 5. So, but I think it's only 1 per turn, maybe. With effort, character may increase a physical attribute above this level. Player may spend as many blood points on increasing physical attributes as the vampire may use in a turn based upon generation. Okay. So blood points per turn, and 8th generation can do 3 per turn. So I can use one turn to spend 3 blood points to get 3 higher. And the most I can get out of it is 5. That's the mechanic.
Okay.
So let me spend 2 blood points to increase my dexterity to 6.
All right. So you're marking this down on your own end?
I am.
Okay. And you know what your blood points are? What are your blood points currently?
8, 7. After this, 5 blood points.
Okay. And you know what your willpower is?
My willpower is 6.
Okay. Michael, do you know what your blood points are at?
Yeah, I have 5 because I used 1.
Okay. And do you know what your willpower is?
It's at 5.
And yeah, Valen, we can bring you in as Cal at some point, maybe in the future, but no guarantees like when it'll happen. But anyways,
so that's my action, and then for my move action, I'm going to use my 6 dexterity to run down this this werewolf.
All right, so with your superhuman burst of speed from your blood points, you move like a cheetah chasing this werewolf. However, as you get close to her, she realizes that you're catching up to her, and so she turns at bay and turns on you and launches through the air. Fangs open. She just turns in a second like, fuck, like you're catching up to me, I'm going to turn on you and maul you. So she turns around and leaps at you, fangs and front paws extended. So go ahead and roll dodge plus dexterity, or just dexterity if you have no points in dodge. She's going to roll a 5 on that.
Dodge plus dexterity. I have melee and athletics. There is no dodge on this character sheet. I think I saw in the book. It's athletics to dodge. So I have 6 dexterity and 2 athletics. So that's 8. Here's 5 of it. And here's the other 3. Sorry, one sec. Six, 4, 9, 6, 6, 5, 6, 9.
Hey, I'm sorry, you're going to have to repeat your last action or your last statement.
So yeah, I rolled and I got for dodge, and it was 6, 4, 9, 6, 6, and then a 5, a 6, and a 9 total.
So how many 8 and higher do you have?
Only 1. No, sorry, 2. 2.
Okay. So she goes flying past you, this large dire wolf with her fangs bared, and careens past you. But you manage with your supernaturally enhanced dexterity to step out of the way and dodge to the side. She goes flying past you. And now it's Michael's turn. The wolf lands and turns back around, still snarling. The fur has been singed by the fire, but nothing more than that.
That's 1 point of aggravated damage, right?
Yes.
Yes. I guess I can use my feral claws now, right?
Yes, you've grown them already, so you can use them. They deal aggravated damage just like fire. So you guys can both deal aggravated damage now.
Okay, I guess I'll just use a claws ability.
Okay, so roll brawl if you have brawl, or you can roll dexterity plus brawl, or if you have another stat you think might be relevant, you can use that.
Yeah, I'll use dexterity and brawl because I got both of those maxed out.
Yeah, okay. So you're rolling 10 then?
Yeah.
Alright, so the wolf is going to try and dodge. He's going to roll 6 dexterity.
What's the dex? Oh, okay.
Alright, so you rolled 7, 4, 2, 6, 7, 3, 10. So 10 is a critical success. She rolled 1 dodge. Okay, so you did 2. We'll say you did 1 damage with your claws, and she managed to dodge out of the way of the rest. So you slash her across the chest and shoulder with your claws, and blood spurts out. But she manages to roll out of the way. You were aiming at her neck, and she manages to twist out of the way and turn around and then retaliate. So she's been sent into fear by the existence of the fire, and she's perceived that Rawl's character, or Shad's character, is the source of the fire. So she's going to attack you with dexterity plus brawl. So she's going to roll 7 dice to attack. and you can roll a dodge mechanic, or you can attempt some other kind of a counter action. But right
I'm
now,
dodging.
she's going to attack.
And my dodge is awesome. 8, 10, 9, 10. 10 are all the successes versus 8.
How many successes?
3 critical successes and 2 additional normal successes.
All right, well, she rolled 10, 10, and 9. So even though you managed to dodge 3 times, she also gets 3 successes. So she's able to tackle you and do just blunt damage through like a tackle by equaling your dodges with her hits, essentially. So she's going to be doing blunt damage of strength, which will be equal to 5.
Really, I got 3 criticals and 2 additional successes, and she got what? 2 criticals?
Oh, did you get? Wait, let me see. So you rolled 10, 6, 10, 10, 9, 10, 3, 10, 6. So you
10,
got
9,
4
10.
successes.
10, 9,
Roll.
8, 10, 9, 10, 10. 3 successes and 2,
All right.
3 criticals
enough.
and
Fair enough. So she flies by you again, and you manage to dodge again with your supernatural dexterity. And at this point, she turns and disappears into the... Well, you're trying to chase her at this point, right? Is that what's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you want to do? Like an athletics roll to see if you can keep up with her? She misses you again, and at this point, she just takes off. And so if
Yeah,
you
I'm
want
going
to
to keep chasing her down.
athletics roll, you manage to dodge both of her lunges, essentially.
Athletics plus dex or just athletics?
Athletics plus dex, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
then
5 of it. I got 2 more coming.
2 successes to keep up with her.
2 critical fails and 1 normal success.
All right. So you chase her as far as you can, but she disappears into the depth of woods called the Witchy Path in the Wildwood Park. So you end up leaving her to, disappear. You can no longer follow her trail. However, a moment later, you hear a chorus of wolves howling. Not just one, but at least 4 or 5 or maybe more wolves all howling at the same time, coming from out of the forest that you just exited. Sounds like a whole pack of wolves, even though you only saw one.
I imagine I'm a little bit ahead of Michael into the woods, but I turn to him and I kind of say, it's time to leave. I don't know what the gang rules have going on with the werewolves here, but I don't like it. They're not friends of the Camarilla or the Masquerade. Let's go.
10-4.
And we just book it like as fast as we can out of the area within the wood line until we find like a safe place in the city to kind of emerge. And I say, now, all of these supernatural things in the moonlight of the city could be accepted by the normal population. I'm just back in university teaching mode, nose up in the air, back straight, dusting off my jacket as if nothing happened. It's very important that people not see us feeding in particular. Have you fed yet?
A couple of times.
All right, I've seen one of them. But there's a slight difference when the target is willing. I'm a bit famished myself. And I do have some vitae back at the university, but perhaps the first lesson would be to feed. Let's see. And I look around the dark alleyways and street lights as we continue for a potential victim to feed on.
If you want to hunt for a potential prey, you're going to have to roll some kind of perception or wits, or unless you have a specific strategy in mind for how you're going to hunt. If you're just looking for like prey, you know what I mean? Then I'd say actually, why don't you roll a D100, and that'll be for searching for prey outside of your domain. The difficulty is going to be at 70 to find someone that's like vulnerable.
Can
Michael,
I use...
Sorry, go ahead.
Can I use heightened sentences to increase our ability to find someone?
Sure. That'll lower the difficulty by 10, so that you only need a 60. So roll a D100. That's going to be 70 for Shad and 60 for Michael as they hunt for some kind of prey in this area of the highways and back alleys between Wildwood Park. Do you know how to roll a D100, Zoo?
I just did.
And you rolled 4?
Yeah.
Okay, so Zoo, despite your heightened senses, you get distracted by the sights and sounds around you, and you're not able to find anyone who's like a candidate for feeding. But Shad, using his experience and focus, is able to locate someone who is a likely target. So you can tell that this person is highly drunk because you can smell the alcohol coming off their breath. And they're sort of weaving back and forth outside of a bus stop long after the bus hours are over, and holding like a paper bag in hand, just like one of the random drunks of Cascadia City that are fairly common in the urban landscape. And there doesn't seem to be anyone else around. You can see someone who's like passed out unconscious on the ground, but there doesn't seem to be anybody else other than this person weaving back and forth under the floodlights of the transit station, which again has stopped functioning like 2 hours ago.
Having noticed this person out of the corner of my eye down the road, I turn to Michael, and say, "So, on whom would you feed? Do you see anybody?"
Not really. I got distracted by the lights.
I see. Turning is impactful to one's consciousness. Here, look, and I nod my head towards the left down the road towards the bus stop. The man down there. How would you go about feeding on him? What do you know about the process? And how would you go about doing it in a way that is unnoticed, even to him?
Well, if stealth is required, then I would try to sneak up from behind while he's near an alleyway or something and try pulling him into the alleyway from behind, pushing him up against the wall, and then feeding from his neck until there's not enough blood for him to live, because there's no point in letting him live. That's a witness, right?
I like the way you're thinking about it, but it's not necessary to kill your victims. If you drink more than a few, I don't know what the actual quantity is, but the mechanism is blood points. If you drink but a few drinks, it will leave them in a hospitalized state. You can also lick off the wounds. After you feed, the marks will disappear, if you so choose. For this, I'm pretty hungry, and perhaps we could drain the victim. He will die, and it will be noticed. In this case, why don't you try what you thought, and try to control the beast. When you feed, your hunger may come out. Try only to take a few portions. He'll feel a euphoric haze and won't resist you in most cases. I'll distract him by sitting at the bus stop. You come in shortly thereafter and see what you can manage.
All right. I decided to try walking alongside, telling from behind, so that he cannot see me, and he's just distracted. He's fumbling around. He's just, he's drunk as can be, and he's got blinders on. And I decide to encroach upon him.
Yeah, so while this is going on, I just go and sit at the bus stop and don't even really look at the guy. And as Michael's getting into position, I say, "It's a wonderful evening, isn't it? What are you drinking?" To the drunk guy. Shogun. Storyteller, calling the storyteller. Hello. You're muted, by the way. So, I want to talk about the mechanics here for a second. Earning blood points. Feeding a vampire may take only 20% of a vessel's blood and leave it safe. Drinking half necessitates hospitalization, and drinking all will kill it. A vampire may take up to 3 blood points in a turn. So, the reason why it was a good idea to chase down that werewolf is because werewolves have a blood pool of 20 that you can feed on. So you can drink 4 points of blood points from a werewolf without even leaving it harmed. Humans have 10. The average adult human has 10. So you can drink 2 points of blood points without leaving it harmed. We could leave 5 and he might survive and go to the hospital, which is plausible given his level of drunkenness. Or we could outright kill it, which is like acceptable, but not like great for the masquerade. Like we don't want to be doing that too much, and we're in someone else's territory also. So
yeah, we probably don't want to kill him, especially if we're supposed to be coming here on peaceful terms to talk to the Camarilla.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I don't know what Shogun wants you to do to roll the feeding. Shogun, are you there?
My phone was having a conniption. I apologize. So what are you trying to do, my friend?
Okay, so here's what's going on. I approach the bus stop and sit down without looking at the man. And after a brief moment of silence, I say without turning my head, "It's a wonderful night. What are you drinking?" Meanwhile, Michael's getting in position to kind of sneak up behind him and try to take 2 blood points, which is not enough to leave him injured and like doing it incognito.
Okay. So roll dexterity plus stealth if you have stealth.
Michael.
To try and approach unnoticed from behind, Michael. Dexterity plus stealth with a difficulty of 8, and you'll need at least 1 success.
It's going to be a low difficulty. I'm distracting him and he's drunk.
Well, sure, we'll call it 7 then.
All right.
I got 1 success.
I'm being a munchkin. 1 success.
I got 1 critical.
1 critical success?
Yeah.
Okay, so you manage to sneak up behind him, and as you do, your heightened senses can detect like the pulse, like the drumming of the pulse of his heart and his neck, and you just follow that naturally, like instinctively, following your natural inner animalistic predatory instincts. You sink your fangs into his drunken neck from behind, and the combination of the alcohol in his system with the euphoric effects of the kiss of the kindred renders him into a unconscious state of ecstasy where his just eyes roll back in his head and he completely blacks out, and you begin feeding, and you can drink as many points of blood as you wish. However, if you choose to take more than 1 point of blood, you'll need to roll some kind of willpower or spend willpower to prevent yourself from feeding all the way to filling your entire blood pool.
Yeah, I'll just use a willpower point. I got 5.
So spend 1 willpower point. How many points do you choose to feed from this human?
How many can I feed from him?
Well, he has a total of, I guess, 10.
Yeah, he's got a total of 10. You can drink up to 2 without harming him. Half hospitalizes him, and 10 kills him.
I'll just try to drink 2.
Okay, well, you've spent willpower points, so you're able to drink 2 points of vitae from this human, this animal, from your point of view, basically, that you're preying upon. And so you ecstatically drink 2 points of blood. You can add that to your blood pool, and you leave him unconscious and passed out from the combination of alcohol and blood loss. However, because you have drank in the blood of someone intoxicated, you are now also feeling the intoxication of alcohol. So put a -1 to all your rolls for the next 4 to 6 hours, because you're now inebriated because this guy just drank like a 2/6 of vodka and you just drank his blood. So now you begin to sort of feel your head swimming a little bit with like a euphoric like drunkenness, which will give you -1 on all your rolls, but you've added 2 to your blood pool.
I look down my nose as the feeding commences and wince a little bit. Although I've seen many, many feedings and even done many myself, there's still something slightly off-putting, especially with a newborn kindred, and especially with a gangrel. But I'm pleasantly surprised by Michael's strength of conviction that permits him to not go into a frenzied feeding, and I say to him, well, it looks like the apple falls farther than the tree than I suspected. Good job. Now, let's be off. Back to the university. So we continue on foot back to the university, walking at a moderate pace, aloof.
So, walk back to the university. You notice a vehicle looks extremely similar to the vehicle that you previously drove off the road. It's not the same vehicle. It has a different license plate, just a nondescript license plate. But it's the same exact make, model, and has the same tinted black windows that you can't see inside of. And it passes by you at a normal speed and just turns around the corner and disappears. But it passes you as you return back to the Cascadia University. So you re-enter successfully your Chantry House, which is your little enclave inside of the Cascadia dormitories in the Cascadia. What's the word for a university's territory? Why can't I remember that right now?
Is it domain?
Campus.
Oh, campus.
So you have your own enclave inside the Cascadia campus and your own private office. And there's at least two other Tremere who share that enclave with you in their own offices. So you successfully return to your office with your newfound protege, Michael Williams. And you still have your 3 books. And the current time is about 3 a.m.
One of them has, one of the books has the Enchant Talisman spell. Now I have this big wooden stick that I got in the Wild Woods, and so I'm going to do my first roll. This mechanic's a little bit complicated, and I don't want to jam up the session too much with this, but this one I think I'm going to be rolling basically every session, so it'd be good to just go through it. So, Enchant Talisman. Talisman allows the caster to enchant a personal magical item to act as an amplifier for her will and thaumaturgical might, blah, blah, blah. System. The ritual requires 6 hours per night for 1 complete cycle of the moon, beginning and ending on the new moon. Over this time, the vampire carefully prepares her talisman, carving it with hermetic runes that signify her true name and the sum total of her thaumaturgical knowledge. 1 blood point per night. 1 intelligence plus occult with difficulty 8 roll once per week. And if a night's work is missed, or if the 4 rolls do not accumulate to at least 20 net successes, the talisman is ruined and the process must be begun again. So I'll spend a blood point, 6 hours, and do one of these intelligence plus occult rolls.
All right. So Michael is standing by and witnessing all of this?
Yeah, I guess we're in like my personal office. There's a couch in here, and I say, Michael, feel free to rest, peruse the books. Tomorrow night, we're going to meet with some members of the Camarilla. I think there's a book on the shelf that will be good for you. An Introduction to the Masquerade, written by none other than the Ivory Towers, official publication. There's many instructions, but the concept is simple. Do not let anyone know that vampires exist. Now, you'll find in there a number of tips, tricks, and tools of the trade, but one thing that you need to know is that this city, as well as every city, is run by a vampire prince. We'll go meet with the sheriff, who is his number 2 or number 3 man, and make an introduction. Your job will be to convince him that you are no threat to the Masquerade, a friend of the Camarilla, and an obedient servant of the Ivory Tower.
I understand.
Okay, well, I've got some more work to do. Ask me if you have any questions, but I'll be here, and feel free to use the couch to sleep.
All right.
All right, so Michael begins perusing the book of the Camarilla and the Masquerade that you provided him to help him get caught up on the customs and etiquette, the complex customs and etiquette of the modern world of darkness. Particularly, you notice. Well, actually, why don't you roll an intelligence roll? Just roll intelligence or intelligence plus occult, as you have been given this book of occult lore, to see how much of its mysteries you can unpack in one night of study. The difficulty will be 8. For each roll of 8, you'll unpack one mystical level of understanding.
I rolled a 1 and I got 1 dice.
You only have 1 dice. All right.
Yeah,
So what you're able to discern from studying this book is that you have to practice the custom of scionship, which is that only permitted embraces are allowed. So you can't just create a new vampire. You can't just trespass on another vampire's territory, and if you do trespass on another vampire's territory, his word is basically law for the duration of the time that you're in his territory. You cannot kill another vampire without permission of the prince, specifically, called a blood hunt. And this is basically what you're able to discern from studying. And also that you have to show etiquette whenever you're in the domain of another vampire. You have to be extremely polite, and no dishonor or disrespect is permitted in another vampire's domain. So even with a critical fail, you're able to understand this, because this is like written right in the front page. So that's all you're able to understand.
Okay, and then my roll for intelligence plus occult on this ritual is 5, 10, 6, 9, 5, 10. Difficulty 8 I got. Are we counting critical successes as 2 successes?
Sure.
And are we counting critical fails as -1 success?
Yes.
Alright, so I got 1, 2, 3, 4 successes. I need 20 net successes, and I only have to do that roll 4 times. But I also need to spend a blood point, which I've done. And there's one more thing. What was it? If a night's work is missed, the talisman is ruined and the process must be begun again. So I need to actually make sure I have like 6 free hours while I'm awake, and I can like cast that ritual to... Oh, I think we said that like I can stay up after the sunrise in this room, so I'll do that if necessary.
You do have to go into like a torpor when the sun rises, even if you're not exposed to the sun's light, unless you have a special status like in Kanu or something. You would have to go into a torpor when the sun rises. You just wouldn't be in danger of being burned by the sun's light. But you would have to roll like a willpower or spend a willpower point to stay awake past the rising of the sun, even in darkness.
What about my magical darkness ritual? Can I use that to extend the night for myself in a local area?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. So that one doesn't cost anything. It just takes an hour, I think.
All right. So you cast a blood ritual that you were taught by your sire long ago in ancient Vienna when you were passing through there during one of the 6 centuries of your ancient, unlife. And you remember this ancient ritual and you repeat it and you create a bubble of otherworldly supernatural darkness in your office so that you can continue your ritual. However, before the sun's light happens as you're working on this ritual, there actually comes a knock on your door, and you're not expecting this, and you kind of are startled by it. But there's a knock on your door. It's currently about 5 a.m. It's still pitch dark outside. You've completed your ritual. You've completed your darkness ritual, and you've already started to do successes on your talisman, but you're interrupted by the knocking on the door.
Is Michael asleep or awake?
Michael's awake. It's still only 5 a.m. and it's still dark outside. You're both still awake.
I look to him and put one finger over my mouth and call out, "Yes, who is it?"
And it says, "You can call me King Rat. I have a message for you from the bishop."
I roll my eyes and open the door and almost yank the guy in, looking around in the hallway and closing it again. "Yes, King Rat."
So this character that you pull in, he's skeletally thin. He's completely bald. He has pointed ears. He has long, pronounced fangs. and he has rat-like little eyes, and he's completely missing his nose. There's just 2 holes in his face where his nose should be. And he's wearing like a leather jacket, like that goes all the way down to his knees, like a leather trench coat of sorts that stinks like the sewer. And you're surprised that he's in here, because to get in here, he'd have to go through at least 3 levels of occult security that the Tremere put around their chantry house. So whoever this guy is, you know that he has some unusual abilities to have been able to get into your door without permission and without passing any of the occult wards that the other chantry members have placed outside the library. And so he says, "Yes, my name is King Rat, and I bring you a message from the leader of the Sabbat in this city, the bishop of the city. We noticed that you created quite a demonstration in Wildwood Park last night. An inferno, they called it. We don't see that every day. So the question is, who are you, and who is this character that you've brought with you here, this Michael Williams? And specifically, why are you following like a lapdog of the Camarilla in this city?"
Camarilla concerns are none of yours, Bishop. It would be sacrilege for me to give you that type of information.
He says, "I'm just here to bring a message of peace. The bishop knows that the Camarilla have no concern for the younger vampires of the night, like this Michael Williams. You're an ancille, you're an elder, practically, one of the lapdogs for generations. You're a hopeless, lost cause. But this one, he's only now been embraced into the unlife. He's barely a baby, not even a baby. And he deserves to know the truth before he decides which side he chooses. The Camarilla are nothing but a rotten aristocracy from a forgotten age. They rule the night, and they treat us like they're lapdogs. They consider us completely expendable. They care not a tiniest bit for you. In fact, your very existence puts your life in danger. The Sabbat has no such expectations. We embrace every vampire who's willing to embrace our teaching. Forget humanity. Forget false expectation of human unlife. It's a joke. We are predators, like vampire bats, like cougars. Humans are nothing more than food for us, and the Camarilla is nothing more than a puppet marionette show. If you really want to be a clown on a clown show, then listen to this Tremere upstart. These aren't even real vampires. They're usurpers. They worship a worm. What has your sire even done handing you over to this Tremere upstart, without even telling you that another side exists? You've been lied to ever since you were embraced, and I come bring the truth. The Camarilla is dead and rotting. The time of end is upon us. If we do not act soon, the Antelope will rise and come. Only those ancient generations can rest at peace in the nights. You need to join us while there's still time. Gehenna is upon us, and this Camarilla lapdog will not teach you the truth."
I turn to Michael and kind of shrug. Oh, he's not all wrong. Is there anything else, Sabbat, you'd like to say to our newly turned kindred?
Do you truly intend to spend the rest of your life, Raul or Shad Viano Feroth, serving the whims of the so-called Ivory Tower? Surely you realize that this is a fool's errand, like chasing dust after the wind.
The rest of my unlife. I kind of chuckle to myself for a moment. The Camarilla provides a significant cover for my further research of the power of blood. I do respect some of the Sabbat members and their like-minded interest in the true power that blood has.
King Rat laughs and says, "I may be the King Rat, and I come bearing a simple message, a message of freedom. Camarilla offers only slavery to those of older and purer blood than yourself. How can you ever progress? How can you ever rise through the ranks of an ancient aristocracy that was old before 1,000 years before you were even born? Only the Sabbat offers true freedom, and the opportunity to live on life as it was intended. Cain's curse is a lie. The curse of Cain is a blessing. It is the kindred who are blessed, and the kind who are cursed. Do you not see the elegant simplicity of this? We are not the cursed. It is the humans, the descendants of Seth, who are cursed. Cursed to forever be our prey, while we are blessed to forever be predators. You, Gangrel, have always understood one half of the truth, that we are predators and they are prey. How simple it would be for you to break these chains that you have so foolishly embraced, and join me and a pack, and run wild through the nights like a wolf, like an alpha predator among the prey. Do you truly intend to study ancient books and scriptures with this Tremere upstart? Simply say go and I will leave, but remember, we are always watching.
Our ambitions do depart at that point. I have no interest in rising through power structures. Perhaps you could impress me with a library of your own and convince me to switch, but I don't see that as likely. Michael, is there anything else you'd like to ask? This is actually quite the opportunity to further ingratiate yourself with other vampires and a deeper knowledge of things that would have taken several lessons to get to.
King
currently
Rat
don't-
laughs and shakes his head, and then turns quizzically to Michael.
I ask if he knows anything about the cult of Hecata.
He smiles. Says, "We know about virtually everything. You know the tip of an iceberg, so deep and dark that your puny mind so recently turned to the truths of on life. You could scarcely expect to understand. If you understood even a fraction of what I know, your mind brave as mad as the media. Perhaps you have been fed some milk and treated like the lapdog you are. But the true, strong liquor of the truth of own life will elude you for many, many long generations to come. But we who live in the underworld, we who are born in the darkness, we who cannot face it like we, who must mask ourselves before we even proceed from our lairs, have been studying the Book of Nod and the ancient scriptures for as long as unlife has populated the night. The Tremere consider themselves the experts scrolls and books. We are masters of secrets and truths and lies, and our knowledge works this ancillary pretender who seeks to take you from your Cyrus a day or two after you were born. So much care of you they show by handing you off like a toy to a dog. Do you truly believe your Cyrus cares for you? This Litu, this Alita, little claw color. Have you asked yourself why? Or are you simply drunk on love like a fool?
I've barely known her enough to know whether or not, or what her true intentions truly are.
Well, perhaps there's more that we can discuss, but I'm busy with my own work and now this second project coming along. Although, on the matter of the Book of Nod, perhaps there is some overlap between our interests there. Do you have a librarian or head researcher in the underworld that would be willing to exchange some notes with me?
King Rat chuckles, his eyes pale, jaundiced yellow, his face yellow, his smell like that of fresh sewage. He says, "Are you familiar with Arkham University?" He smiles with like a strange, knowing, sinister smile. And you don't need to roll anything to know that Arkham University is the main university of the nearby town. And it's a fairly prestigious university that specializes in archaeology and anthropology, forensic sociology, and ancient cultures and ancient scriptures. And so you've heard of this university before.
Of course I have.
He says, "Your library here scratches the surface, but if you wish to proceed into the deepest darkness between us and the Age of Cain, you will need a complete translation. Find one at Cascadia University. You have only scraps. But we in Arcadia Arkham University have the entire book of the Necronomicon. And when you correlate the Necronomicon with the Book of Nod, you can unpack secrets within secrets within secrets. Perhaps someday your travels will take you there. And if they do, we will illuminate you into the truth. But remember, if you gaze long enough into the abyss gazes back into you. I apologize. Perhaps I have intruded into your domain. I was sent simply to bear a message. I mean no disrespect. Simply permit me and I will go. Unless, of course,
Message? Yes.
unless, of course, you are ready to throw off the chains that you have so foolishly bound yourself with and embrace the true freedom of the Lords of the Night. The Sabbat can protect you despite what your overlords have told you. We are much more powerful in this city than they have led you to believe. The time of the Camarilla is coming to the end. The Sabbat are the Lords of Gehenna. We alone are prepared for what is to come. The Camarilla will be like chaff sifted from the wheat.
I do believe that the message is well received and, in fact, well intended. However, there will be no major switch of allegiances tonight. Perhaps, though, we can speak more in the future. I thank you for your time. And, Michael?
Yes.
Please bid your best to our favored guest here, King Rat.
I bid you a farewell, King Rat.
He chuckles and says, "Someday I hope I can introduce you to my queen. Until that day, I thank you for your time." And he takes his left hand and flicks it back and forth in front of his face, and by doing so, he suddenly transforms his appearance completely abruptly, as though changing his face in an instant. All of a sudden, he looks like a completely normal and nondescript man with black hair, somewhat pointed nose, Weasley features, somewhat thin-skinned, but completely normal and unobtrusive looking. And he nods and then bows to both of you and says, "I hope we meet again. Remember one thing. We are not blessed like the ancestors were blessed to endure millennia of unlife. We live in the time of the great reaping. The antediluvians stir within their nests and within their deep layers, and we will be the first to go like sheep to the slaughter. Join the Sabbat and fight for survival. Spit in the face of darkness, or chase the lapdog's rewards that the Camarilla offers you until the final night. The choice is yours." He nods again and disappears, and as he disappears, he seems to just sort of vanish into thin air, so becoming transparent in front of your eyes, and you can't see him anymore, but you sense that he's gone. The entire interaction takes about 15 minutes.
I turn to Michael and ask, are you impressed by our arrivals?
Not really. They speak in riddles.
I agree. They have too much theology and not enough practicality. I doubt you understood all of what he said, but the foremost points should be noted. We are rivals of the Sabbat, and they seek Gehenna, an apocalyptic understanding of the rise of the original vampires, to restore their rightful place at the head of all of humanity, supernaturality, and blah, blah, blah. It's all very nice sounding, but there's no evidence for it. Their studies of the Book of Nod, while impressive, are mostly theoretical, and although they're powerful, they have not maintained their power over time. That should tell you everything you need to know. But it's not on me to decide your path for you. My only role now is to give you the option to stay with the Camarilla, which we will do. Sunrise is shortly. I'll finish my work and see you tonight.
Very well then.
So after the departure of King Rat, you are able to complete your ritual and accumulate successes as you begin to imbue magical power into the talisman of the staff that you're working on. You know it's going to take at least a few more nights of dedicated work, but you can sense on the supernatural realm a faint vibration of spiritual energy and magical power that you've managed to imbue into the staff so far. So you can mark down however many successes you got towards the total that you require.
And do I have Vitae at the university?
You have access to it in a neighboring room. So you've, I think you drank. Did you drink the bottle that you had in your office before?
I don't recall doing that. No.
Well, regardless, you have one bottle in your office, and there's also an adjacent room that you have access to in your chantry house that has an additional supply of vitae. We'll say about 3 total vitae points are in the, wine, which are disguised amongst the other ordinary wine bottles, and only you and your chantry know which ones are the blood, and no one else has access to this. So we'll just say you have a blood pool of 3 available to you.
Okay.
In your chantry
All right.
house, in your library.
So I'll drink my 3.
All right.
And I'm back at 8.
All right. Now you can get no further vitae from the chantry house for the current presence. You're going to have to hunt for it or find it otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the sun rises, and you both settle into torpor after the completion of the ritual, and Michael spends his time reading the book. And the night passes, and both of you have fitful dreams. Raul, you dream about your ancient past, about people you witnessed dying, people that you used to love but have not seen for hundreds of years. And Michael, you dream about your Cyrus Leetu and about a dark figure with glowing red eyes, standing in the distance, emanating a palpable aura of power and malevolence. Both of you awake the following night, having fully rested and having expended 1 blood point.
Okay. So I go over to Michael and lean over with my hands behind my back and say, "Did you sleep well?"
I wake up as soon as, and because there's light and at the edge of the window, and my senses are a bit more heightened or aware of this light, I wake up mentally right away.
Okay.
I'm going to put on more music.
Well, tonight is the night. I look at his clothes. What shape are your clothes in? Are they like all ripped up and dirty, or are they still looking all right?
They might be a little bit ripped up, I think, from the fight between me and Leetu, I guess you could say.
Sorry. Music's
Okay.
a bit loud. Hold on a
Shower up.
second.
There's a change of clothes for you in the drawer, and tonight we're going to the Pyramid. Did you ever attend the Pyramid? It's a club downtown. While you were still Kine?
No, I did not.
Well, as you will find out, it, like most other things here, are ran by the Camarilla. It's a perfect place to find victims to feed upon, kind to feed upon, or to just let yourself go. Toreadors, Ventru, everybody seems to find a reason to go to the Pyramid. But our reason is to introduce you to David. What was his last name again? David
Wingates.
Wingates. David Wingates. He can usually be found there in the VIP section. And we'll have an interview. Do you feel comfortable? Do you have any questions? Is there anything I can do to help prepare you for his questioning?
I wouldn't know until I met the guy.
Well, he's very charismatic, and it's not all because of his good looks. David has a way with people. He's very convincing. Be on guard for him attempting to sway you to a path you wouldn't otherwise hold. He may not be successful, but again, he's a high-ranking member of the Camarilla, and insofar as our immediate goals, I think he will be nothing but helpful to you. Remember, your job is to convince him that you are worthy of being a vampire in this city, that you pose no threat to the Camarilla, and your understanding from your Cyrus and her sire are to continue being friends of the Masquerade. Let me do the talking when it comes to King Rat. We don't want to hide anything from our Camarilla allies.
I see.
So, we do that, get ready for the club, and head on out to the pyramid to find David Wingate.
So the current time is about midnight, and the night is fully fallen. The moon is still more full than not. It's waning towards darkness again. And the city has an electricity about it tonight, despite it being Monday, May 29th. Nevertheless, that nightlife of Cascadia City never sleeps. And so there's a lot of people out partying, drinking, already drunk, stumbling from nightclub to nightclub, casino to casino, party to party. And you head towards the Pyramid, one of the most popular nightclubs and most upscale nightclubs on Corridon Avenue, which is one of the nicer sort of upscale clubs and restaurants are found there, as well as the art gallery. And it's known to Shad Viano Feroth that this is traditionally a Toreador domain. And in fact, it is specifically the domain of your friend, Sarah Fairbrook, your friend who is a DJ who also happens to own the Pyramid nightclub. And so as you approach, you see the usual long line stretching around the outside of the club, and you can hear the hard music coming from inside. It's a mixture of, electronic dance music, dubstep, nightcore, and various other, electronic genres. And there's all kinds of young people and older people waiting in line patiently, and the usual extremely muscular, bald, black-shirted security bouncer checking IDs and the name list as people sleep into the restaurant or into the bar and club.
Turn to Michael. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling a bit nervous. I'm not used to all of this.
Yeah, it's a bit much, but you seem like a strong enough guy, and I hope that your will is strong too. It may be helpful to feed first. I'll look around. So you said we're going to the pyramid or to the art place?
Well, it's up to you, but you're currently at the pyramid. The art gallery is just a little bit up the street. The art gallery is also known to be Toreador territory, but specifically the art gallery, you already are aware as a member of the Camarilla that the art gallery is the domain of Sarah Fairbrook's Cyrus, who is actually more powerful than her, and she has the domain of the art gallery, whereas this particular nightclub is the domain of your friend Sarah Fairbrook. You've never met her, Cyrus, but you are aware that the art gallery is her territory.
Okay, well, I'm going to go try to skip the line and go talk to the bouncer I spoke to last night. Is he there?
Yeah, it's the same bouncer that you saw last time, and he immediately recognizes you and immediately gestures that you can enter. He realizes that you have a special VIP access pass, and so he just gestures for you to go ahead of the line with whoever is with you.
Mm-hmm. So we do that and march in.
So you pass inside of the club, and you notice the same things as last time. There's someone on the stage, not Sarah, a male, performing, putting on a set. Everybody's dancing. There's drinks being sold. There's quite a lot of security guards wearing black t-shirts that say security or staff, keeping an eye on things. And you see that above all the dance floor and all of the bars and stuff, there are VIP stalls that are set up around in like a semicircle opposite from the performance stage. And so you can see the very same VIP booth that was reserved last time, and you notice that David Wingates is sitting there just like he was last time. Well, this time he's by himself, sipping on, undescript liquid.
All right. I say follow my lead. So Michael, then we approach David.
So as you approach security guards, big muscular security guards, one male, one female, and both tall, very fit looking, wearing security and staff shirts. They, take you in as you approach and then step aside and let you pass. And David looks at you and nods with recognition and gestures his hand out for you to sit. So you're now in a crescent-shaped, like, VIP lounge behind, like, a red velvet rope with, like, red leather seats and, like, a circular formation around, like, a dark oak wooden table that's in a circle. And you're sitting across, if you sit down, you're sitting across from David Wingates.
So we do that, and I gesture for Michael to sit down as well.
I proceed to sit down.
All right, as the
David?
two of you sit down, out of nowhere, a beautiful girl with dark hair and a black dress appears and serves you both a glass of what you can easily smell is human vitae, disguised to look as ordinary red wine in glasses, and then just as quickly disappears. However, you notice, or rather, both of you guys can roll perception or alertness and see if you notice anything about this interaction.
8527.
All right, so you got one success. And you can roll 2, Michael.
83879.
Okay, so Shad, you notice that she has on her arm a tattoo of a serpent, a snake coiling up her forearm. You, Michael, notice that, but you also notice an additional detail that on her other arm she has an eye tattooed on her, which is known as the Eye of Set, which is the eye over an Ankh, and this Ankh actually bears a resemblance to the traditional image of the Sabbat, which is sort of like a thorny-looking Ankh. And so you kind of question this as you notice this tattoo, but the girl simply serves you the blood and disappears back in the hallway she came out of.
I turn to David and say, after thanking the woman for the vitae which I drank, David, we've been successful. I apologize if there's been any issues with how loud we were. I set a small fire, but called the fire department to put it out. There was also werewolves. And one more thing. A Sabbat visited me at the university last night. Very powerful. He made it through all of our occult defenses. So, I have quite the report for you, and happy to discuss in any order that you would like. But perhaps first thing first. This is Mikhail, or Michael as you are wont to say today. He's a loyal member of the Camarilla. I have taken it upon myself to instruct him in the ways of the masquerade, and both Cagliostri and Litu were repentant in their violation of the prince's orders.
Daniel laughs and kind of like laughs with sincere, genuine like amusement that seems sort of a wholesome and positive, and he says, Cagliostro repentant. I've heard it 1,000 times, but I've never seen it come true. Nevertheless, consider me impressed. To be perfectly honest, I was more than half convinced you wouldn't return with your guts inside your stomach. Only some of those who trespass on Cagliostro's domain do. You should ask yourself who exactly signed you up for this detail, as it wasn't exactly safe. It seems to me someone's been gambling with your life, and you should ask yourself who that is. I can tell you myself it wasn't me. The orders came down from above, if you understand what I'm saying.
I shrug and nod. I am a servant of the masquerade. But thank you for the good advice.
He nods and says, You've proved that today. Michael, he says, welcome to the Pyramid Nightclub and welcome to the Camarilla. But I'll take your oath firsthand, thank you. Do you swear to obey all the domains, regulations, and rules of the Camarilla and the city of Cascadia and the Prince, and his commandments as they come to you through his authorized designates?
I do.
He nods and looks at you thoughtfully. He sips from his drink, and his eyes seem to sort of like have a steel reflection in them. They look suddenly like pale, almost like gray, unnaturally gray, with no pupils. And he looks at you, and you suddenly feel a sense of like tiredness, as though this person has been facing duties and responsibilities for longer than you can imagine. But he sort of shakes his head, and the faded look vanishes from his eyes. Now you're going to have to roll a willpower, and you're going to need at least 3 saves on a 7 or higher, because as you look into his eyes as they turn this color, you feel like sort of a hypnotic presence come over your mind.
And the willpower roll is just the number of willpower points you have in D10s, right?
Yeah, with a difficulty of 7, and you need at least 3 successes.
And I believe
a dominate of 3.
I believe you get 1 willpower point every day when you wake up.
Okay. So you could spend a willpower point to automatically resist it, or you can roll willpower and get 3, 7, or higher.
And you have a pool of what? How many willpower?
5, because I used 1 yesterday, but then I got 1 from sleep, and I rolled 9, 3, 9, 9, and 8.
Okay,
wow,
so
good rolls, man.
You feel his natural charisma. He's a handsome guy. He's got all silvery white hair, similar sort of to Shad's, but rather than being a young boy like Shad, who's only appearing to be 18, 19, 20 years old, this man looks to be 40, 50 years old, but he's just very vibrant, healthy, good-looking guy. But you feel that this charisma coming over you, and you sort of notice an occult element to it. It's actually mentally affecting you in a psychic sort of way. And you shake your head, and it disperses like clouds of vapor, clouds of mist, and the attempt to control your mind through a discipline fails as you successfully resist it with willpower. He nevertheless says, "I will accept your oath as given, but understand that your own life is in your own hands. Even the slightest reason, the slightest excuse, and I promise you the Camarilla will declare a blood hunt on you. And every loyal kindred in this city will turn against you, and every man and woman's hand will be against you. And then your life will be measured in minutes, not hours, I promise you. So seriously and deeply take account of the rules that bound you in the Camarilla if you would see another night. Follow the Camarilla, and do not presume to test the power of those who rule over you, and you may yet experience the benefits of your long life. But to tell you the truth, young vampires often have a less life expectancy than young humans. The night is dangerous, and only the strong survive. Regardless of which side of this so-called conflict you choose, only the strong survive. Do you understand?"
I understand.
He says, "Whatever you are ordered to do, you must do. You are not an Ancilla, you are not an Eldar. You must prove yourself every night that you bring a benefit to the Camarilla and the Ivory Tower. Because believe me, the moment that you become a parasite or a burden, you will be cast into the fire and burned away like the chaff from the wheat." He says, "Go ahead."
I understand what you're saying, and I do plan on minding the customs and laws of the Camarilla and respecting the authority of the Prince of this of Cascadia.
He looks at you
say with a curl in my lip, "Perhaps, David, there is some task that you would like to see completed that would prove Michael's loyalty to the Camarilla."
He smiles and see a predatory grin of like an animalistic predator who is both ancient and powerful. But very quickly subsumed again under the look of a human being, charismatic political human being. He says, "Believe me, when the time is right, we will reach out to you and give you tasks, and you will complete those tasks, or you will die in the attempt, or you will face the consequences. But for now, the Camarilla is satisfied. Cagliostro can be kept complacent as long as we allow his discretions of his wayward daughter, Litu, to be overlooked. We've understood this for a long time. He does not train his sires or his children properly. He lets them run wild like the animals that they are, and we are forced to accept it because he does not respect our authority, not truly. However, the Camarilla always depends on masquerades. One deception is no greater than another. As far as the other kindred of this city are concerned, he is a loyal citizen of the Camarilla. We know the truth, that he is neutral at best, an anarch or an autarch, but we persist in the myth that he is a loyal follower of the Camarilla. However, if Litu should ever sire another
other unsponsored kindred, her life is forfeit. That I can promise you. And you should carry that message to her. She may test you, but I promise you, Prince's patience is at an end.
I nod to Michael and say, understood. David, sir, while we have your ear, I'd like to speak a little bit more about the gangrels in Cogliostro. There were werewolves in the wild woods, and it didn't seem like just one, a whole pack. Now, I know gangrels are no friends of werewolves generally, but given what you just said, is there anything to think about regarding their loyalty?
He looks at you thoughtfully and says, Cogliostro is no friend of werewolves. The very fact that he is able to exist in overlapping territory with theirs is simply another indicator of his great power. The wolves are no friends of vampires and will exterminate them where they can. The wolves that inhabit Wildwood Park are known as the Red Talons, and they hate humanity. So they will hunt and kill any werewolf as well, they hate the vampires as well as humanity, seeing both of them as being children of the worm, children of the dark corrupting force that destroys nature. So there are radical sects of vampires, of werewolves that will hunt vampires anywhere they're found. And they're no friends of Cogliostro. However, their territory does overlap with his. How he's able to protect himself in their territory is something about. But we can only attribute it to his regeneration and his ability to sleep deep in the earth where they cannot reach.
Well, I will not think about it any longer then. One more thing. A Sabbat visited me in the university. King Rat, he called himself, with a message for our young Michael. I wish to hide nothing from the Ivory Tower. They are planning a great movement and claim to have power in the city already. You know, I'm not much for keeping track of these politics, and after a while it all runs together. But I am curious. They claim to have a vast library at Arkham. Would this be useful if I could get in there and copy some notes down? Would it be worth trading some of my own research for theirs? What is the current relationship between us and the Sabbat? They seemed less offensive than usual, but maybe that was just his etiquette.
Chuckles darkly and says, to judge us by his opinion is like to trust the face of a wolf disguised in sheep's clothing. Nevertheless, Arkham University is a complex center of kindred power in the city. There are various power brokers who have a stake to the ancient archives and lore there. We do have Nosferatu friends. King Rat is a member of the Anti-Tribu and a member of the Sabbat, and Queen Rat is his mistress or his sire. They are enemies of the Camarilla, however, they do follow the realities of realpolitik. They know that if they act too openly, we'll come down on them and cast a blood hunt on them. So they operate in the shadows. Nevertheless, to go to Arkham University and travel there could potentially be worthwhile. If it's true, the rumors we've heard that they have a copy of the Necronomicon of Abdul Alhazred, you could combine it with the scriptures of the Book of Nod that you've already discovered and unpack ancient secrets not known to the Camarilla of these regions in thousands of years. However, you would have to tread carefully. Unlike the city of Cascadia, Arkham University is more under the dominion of the Archbishop, and it is under the designation of the Sabbat. Cascadia is firmly under the control of the Camarilla. Arkham is more under the power of the Sabbat, although we have a powerful toehold there through the Lutheran Church of St. Luke.
Understood. Well, David, it's been a real pleasure making your acquaintance and providing this important mission. I hope we can consider the matter closed for the time being.
He nods and says, you have done well despite some of my pessimistic expectations. Now, is there anything that you require from me to continue your operations? The prince is pleased with your performance so far, and we are satisfied that Michael will be a loyal servant of the Camarilla as well. Do you require anything from us?
I think for a moment, just to be left alone for a little while longer. I'm on the verge of a breakthrough that I'm sure doesn't concern you much, but I'd really like to be left alone to my notes if possible.
He nods and says, "You have done your duty, and the prince will respect your sovereignty in your domain. Take your rest, pursue your projects, and we will be in touch again before long. The prince
One more
or the
question.
sheriff
Would you?
has need of
Sorry,
you.
go ahead.
That's
Mhm.
all."
Would you mind if we fed on the dance floor before we go?
He nods and says, "The clientele of the pyramid is a special group. More of them than not have been fed the blood of the vitae of Sarah Fairbrook. She spikes the drinks with her vitae, you see. That is why the clientele is so very loyal and reappears night after night. They don't know it themselves, but they're addicted. Addicted to this place, addicted to her music, to her charms, and to the very special ingredient that she puts in her drinks. So you may feed freely here. They will simply
I see.
take it as another hallucinogenic manifestation of the drugs and alcohol that they're all loaded to the gills with. Some of them know the truth. It matters little. Nobody believes the ravings of these drug-impaired unionists."
Does Sarah have a set tonight?
She nods and says she generally comes on around 3 a.m. If you stick around for hours, you might see her. But then she nods and smiles and says, "It seems she's a step ahead of you." And as you say, Sarah Fairbrook, a beautiful girl, comes around the corner and smiles and says, "Ah, Shad, a pleasure to see you. And Michael, I've heard so much. A pleasure to finally make your acquaintance." And she takes your hand and kind of sarcastically bends to like kiss your hand, as though a knight like courting a lady.
I said the pleasure is mine to her.
She smiles with like a mischievous smirk, and you notice that she just absolutely sort of sparkles. She's wearing a beautiful dress. She just like stands out wherever she goes. She moves with an almost inhuman fluid grace, and like everybody looks at her wherever she goes with either desire or admiration or just like, you know, hypnotic impression. And you feel the same, right? Like you feel like you're looking at someone who's more charismatic than anyone else you've met in your life. Seems almost like superhuman. And that's just her nature. And she says, "Shad, I see that you have quickly introduced our new friend into the ways of the night. Such a pleasure. Such a rarity, in fact. I can't remember the last time Cascadia saw the birth of a new childer. You're an important person, believe it or not. Probably more than you realize. The question I have is why? What exactly did Litu see in you that led her to defy the Camarilla and embrace you without permission? I should not speak of the past, however. Water under the bridge. Still, I can't help but wonder," she says, and looks at you and kind of tilts her head to the side. "What precisely did she see in you?"
She tried to use psychic domination to turn me into her prey, but I resisted, and I became someone who defended myself against this hunter. Now, I would not say I was the hunter, but at least I wouldn't say I was a helpless prey. And she said to me, it would be a waste to dispose of someone with such talents that come naturally and as you. And that's why she turned me, she told me.
Sheriff David Wingate smiles and says, "It's been a pleasure to see you again, Shad, and a pleasure to meet you, Michael." He gestures at his wrist and at his watch and says, "The time for me to depart has come. Someone else has arrived." He smiles and nods knowingly at Sarah Wingate, who smiles back at him, and he disappears down the same pathway that the woman with the snake tattoo and the Eye of Set tattoo disappeared down, leaving behind his finished, empty drink. And just as he says that, you look and you see two people entering the club, passing the security. And one of them you're able to see is the very same King Rat that you met the previous night. However, you can see that he is currently still wearing the same disguise that he was wearing last time you saw him, the one that he put on using his ability of obfuscation. But you nevertheless recognize it. This is the same person who's just entered the club. And you notice that many of the security guards are looking with like increased interest as he enters the room. Sarah Fairbrick smiles and says, "Can you imagine? They live in sewers. They look like wretched monsters. They have less to partake in the affairs of the night than even the kind do. Even the humans live above ground and enjoy the sights and sounds of the night, but these Nosferatu, they eke out an existence hunting rats, and barely more than rats themselves. However, politics is politics, and I can no more ban them from the pyramid than one can get cockroaches out of their house. Once they infest you, there's no being rid of them, I swear. The Nosferatu have been clinging to unlife for thousands of years, God only knows how. Wretched, ugly, disgusting creatures, and I have to let them into my bar." She sips her drink and says, "Well, I'm glad to see that we have at least a new loyal citizen of the Camarilla. A pleasure to meet you, Michael Williams. I'm sure we'll be in touch again. Shad, as for you, I wanted to offer an invitation." She reaches into her purse and pulls out 2 tickets and hands them to you, and she says, "There's a new display at the local art gallery, the Corridon Cascadia Art Gallery." She says, "Ancient artifacts from the Middle East are on display, statues and sculptures and bas-reliefs. I think it would be right up your alley. You and the Tremere love that kind of thing. This display will be open for the next 3 weeks. These tickets are good any time for you and a +1. But I must be going. I have something I have to attend to." She hands you the tickets and bows and departs, still smiling, looking one more time over Michael with kind of a sarcastic-looking grin as she does, as though she's laughing at some inside joke. And then she disappears down the hallway, following after David and the woman with the snake tattoo. And you guys are left alone in the VIP booth of the Pyramid as the next set starts.
All right, well, that was successful. Perhaps we go down to the dance floor and feed. Again, as before, don't make it too obvious. And I just kind of go off to, like, pick up somebody on the dance floor and, like, you know, ingratiate myself with them enough to, like, you know, take a bite without arousing suspicion and lick it clean.
All right, so you notice automatically a small group of young men and women who are clearly under the influence of some kind of psychoactive drug. Their pupils are heavily dilated. They're dancing, kind of like, you know, grinding with each other and dancing like with abandon and sweating. And through your senses, you can tell that they are all under the influence of, like, you know, MDMA or some other such drug. And you sense that they would therefore be an easy target for a subtle bite. So go ahead and roll a D100. We'll call it a hunting roll. And we'll say you need anything better than a 60 to be completely undetected. And the, you know, laser show, light show, smoke and fog and everything. Anything
82.
over 100. Yeah. So you manage to go up behind a beautiful person of your choice and kind of start dancing with them. And, you know, start by kissing their neck and then proceed to a subtle and vicious bite, and you're able to feed as much blood as you want. However, if you want to stop at only 2, you'll have to either spend a willpower point or roll a willpower roll to stop yourself from feeding to full satiation.
What's the DC on the willpower roll?
We'll say that it's just 7.
All right, I'll do a willpower roll, and there's 5 of it. 3 successes there.
All right,
and
so you're able to decide how long you want to feed on this.
I'll take
kind
2
for.
I'll take 2 points.
All right,
Not enough to hurt
so
them.
so she just like slumps and like ecstasy as you bite her, as she's already feeling high, and you begin to feel high as well, and see like halos and like auras around everything. And you start to feel overwhelming, like pleasure and euphoria, not only from feeding on blood, but you notice this blood is spiked with MDMA. So you can put +1 to your perception rolls, but -1 to any dexterity rolls that you have to make as this drug is taking over your effect as you've drinking this inebriated blood.
I
And that'll
wipe my
last for
mouth. with the dark side of my sleeve as she kind of like collapses, and I just like immediately turn and walk away, back out to the side of the dance floor and observe Michael and how he's managing his second feeding.
I decided to try finding someone and doing the same and doing a feed.
All right, so go ahead and roll a hunting roll of 100, but your roll will be 80 or higher to succeed because you don't necessarily have the same experience.
Bro, I rolled a 1.
All right, so you go up behind a girl or a boy of your choice.
A girl.
Okay, so you go up behind a girl and you put your arms around her and you go to kiss her neck, and she kind of like, she's high and you can smell that she's high by her like perspiration, and you can tell by her pupils, but she kind of like pushes you away and laughs, but kind of like sort of swats you away and goes like, no, and like hits you away. And so you desist with sort of embarrassment, but it just taken as that you tried to kiss her neck and she like rejected you basically. And so you're unable to feed. And people kind of look at you and notice, so you desist from further attempts. However, after you do this, you see King Rat wearing the same face mask he was wearing when he left last time approaching, and beside him is a very large man, very muscular man, completely bald head, who has tattooed around his head a crown of thorns. So he has like a crown of thorns tattooed around his head. He's about 6'3" and looks like he's probably like 250 to 275 pounds of just like muscle. And he's wearing a leather brown jacket that's open. He's wearing no shirt underneath. You can see he's got like, ripped abs, whatever. He's a big guy. And he's approaching alongside King Rat. And they're smiling at you like sarcastically as they notice Michael's failed attempt to feed. And then nod at Shad with like recognition and say, the pyramid. The Harpies pretend that they're Camarilla diehards, but in the end they're all drama queens, and they just allowing a little bit of drama to play out. They allow us in here. Did you ever think about that? What does the prince think of it? And yet, I think it's a matter of keep your friends close and your enemies closer. That's my theory anyways. Regardless, he smiles at Michael again and he says, have you given any more thought to what I said last night?
I'm not interested in switching sides.
She says, he says, are you truly content to enter an eternity of unlife as a blood-bound thrall? Don't you realize what they've done to you? They fed you their blood 3 times without ever telling you why. They took away your free will. Does that mean nothing to you?
I still have my free will.
He laughs. He says, you truly believe that, don't you? You poor, sad little thing. Well, don't let me be the one to burst your bubble. You'll find out the truth soon enough. He looks at Chad and nods and smiles, and then again he waves his left hand in front of his face and completely changed appearance. All of a sudden he appears to be a female, a small, red, attractive female, with red-headed, attractive female, and he kind of smiles at you and nods and turns and disappears back into the crowd. And King Rat disappears away.
I roll my eyes and say, I'm glad he did that after I decided to feed and not before. But again, Michael, not everything he's saying is a lie. There's still the matter of your thraldom to lead to. You may even be feeling her missing presence painful. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, it's like separation anxiety when a dog misses its owner. It's enchanting. It's got power possessing itself over me.
Indeed. Feeding will help with that. Make sure that you stay full. But you did well. The Nosferatu are even more vile than the Gangrels, I say, kind of punching him in the shoulder. But they're not without their own power. Masters of deception and disguise, trading in dark secrets. This makes them very powerful. And it's been a while since I've seen Sabbat operate so openly in Camarilla territory. Things are much more anyway. It'll be fine. So,
I'd like
What
both of you
next?
guys to roll some kind of perception or alertness check.
okay. 3, 10, 5, 5.
Okay. So with the roll of 10, you detect sort of like a prickling down the back of your neck as though someone is watching you, and you turn and you notice another VIP section, a few over from the one that you had been sitting in. And there's a short man, very small, probably about 5'6", light build. He's wearing a white, immaculate white tuxedo. He has brown skin. He's completely bald, and he's wearing sunglasses inside. And you notice that he has tattoos on his wrists and up his arms of serpents. And standing beside him is the attractive young waitress, who's wearing a black dress, has black hair, and is also tattooed with serpents. And you notice that they're in the 5th VIP section room, whereas you had been sitting in the 7th. And you notice they're looking at you. And the guy who's like got his fingers like steepled in front of him is like grinning at you with like open amusement and not making any effort to disguise that he is looking at you. And they're both looking at you with sort of smug looks.
I give a very incognito eyebrow raise and head nod upward to see if they like are interested in me coming over there. Like, what's up?
Yeah, you notice that the woman smiles and like tilts her head sort of seductively and gestures at you to come over. And man screams even further, and he like puts it like, look, there's an empty space beside me. Come sit down.
I nod to Michael and yank my head to the side and wink and go walk over to them.
All right. So you guys approach and sit down in number 5, the VIP section of the Pyramid Nightclub. And sitting across from you is a brown-skinned man, very short, slate build, bald head, wearing a white tuxedo, and a woman, very attractive, wearing a black dress, tight-fitting black hair. Both of them have serpent tattoos. Do either of you guys have streetwise or etiquette or anything like that?
I have 3 etiquette.
All right, so roll
Doing
etiquette plus charisma as you approach these tattooed individuals.
5, 10, 8, 7.
10, 8, 7. Okay. So as you approach, you realize that these, based on their tattoos and based on the way that they're presenting themselves, are certainly followers of Set, an ancient and powerful clan that has managed to remain independent through the wars between Set, Sabat, and the Camarilla. And as you sit down, they offer you a drink, and they actually offer you 2 glasses. One is red, and you can sense that it's regular Vitae, and the other one is black, just black as ink. And they smile and say, "You have tasted before red rose, but have you ever tasted the black rose?" And they look at you. "Perhaps you would enjoy a sample? There is no cost." The woman holds out to you a red and a black glass of liquid. One of them you can smell is Vitae. The other one also smells like Vitae, but it smells different, like something you haven't smelled before.
You know, I, for one, am very full. Just got done with the feeding, in fact. And things that come at no cost are often the most costly. But I appreciate your hospitality. Michael?
I'm curious to try the Rose of the Blacks, or the Elixir of the Black Rose.
All right, so Michael accepts the black elixir and begins to drink it, and is overtaken with an intense hedonistic euphoria, similar to when he drank the blood of his mistress. However, this seems to come with a strange hallucinogenic side effect, where all the shadows and dark spots within the nightclub seem to lengthen and sort of move back and forth like serpents, and you see like almost semi-invisible serpents like writhing through the crowds, and you see people looking at you have like serpent-like eyes, and you start hearing like a hissing sound in your mind, but you feel like an overwhelming intoxication and euphoria, as though you were feeding on blood that was heavily laced with opiates, and you begin to feel drowsy and inebriated. So you'll -1 from essentially any of your rolls that you'll make for the next hour. tower. And you also begin to see everything through like a strange dark glass as they're looking through like a shaded, shadowed window. And the guy who gave it to you smiles like knowingly and nods at both of you and says, "So, the two of you have managed to make a little bit of a splash in recent times. My understanding is the Camarilla were trying to keep it secret, but they're not the only ones who keep an eye on that lunatic old Claw. Cagliostro, they call him. Not the first time he's pulled something like this. We watch, and we observe, and we try to figure out how we can turn it to our advantage. That's no secret. So the question is simple. Are you here to do business, or are you just another one of the brainwashed lackeys of the Camarilla who never asks any questions and never makes any profits?"
For all intents and purposes, you can consider me a brainwashed lackey. But I never pass up a good business opportunity. Perhaps there's some overlap in our goals. What
He
have you got for
smiles
us?
He smiles and says, "You're not as much of a fool as you pretend to be, Chad. Not based on what I've heard anyways. We have the capacity to make you very rich and very powerful very quickly, if you're willing to pursue something we might call the middle path. You see, they'll try to lie to you and tell you that you have to join one side or the other, Camarilla or Sabat, good or evil, light or darkness, God or the devil. Surely you've been around long enough to see through this kind of nonsense. It's all false dualisms and false dichotomies. But the truly enlightened don't seek conflict. We seek cooperation. We don't seek war, we seek profit. We don't seek bloodshed, we seek trade. Surely you can agree. There's business. Business comes before bloodshed, business before drama, business before politics. Don't you agree?
In some respects, of course I do. You're speaking a lot of sense.
And says, "You're going to need your own domain. Some little tree house in the Cascadia University isn't going to constrain the ambitions of a growing little motley crew like yours. You'll need a domain of your own. I can help with that. In the North End, I control space the Prince has no claim to. I could set you up with your own little group, willing and able and ready to give you their blood on command, with nobody to look over your shoulder and tell you what to do. And you wouldn't even have to turn to the other side. It's all completely under the table. I think you'll find it more than a little bit profitable."
And what would it cost me? Measure the profit against.
We have a very simple system in the Followers of Set Club. You do a favor for us, we do a favor for you. But we do the first favor. Anything that you ask. Anything at all. You ask us for a favor and we provide it. And then someday in the future, we ask you for a favor and you provide it.
A reasonable system. My ambitions are local, primarily around the research into ancient texts and any uncovering of the Book of Nod, I say with a pregnant pause, would
He
be
laughs.
very helpful.
And chuckles and says, "Ah, the Book of Nod. How amusing it is to watch the kindred of the day seeking after it like hounds after scraps. Meanwhile, our own books are thousands of years older. The Book of Nod is child's play compared to the books and tablets of Set. The books of Nod were written on goat skin and human flesh and human bone. But the books of Set were carved in ancient scriptures and scrolls, carved in the walls themselves, carved in the stone, before the flood. That is the true source of ancient wisdom. Sure, chase after the Book of Nod all you want, and learn about Cain and all these other trifles that the elders have batted around like cats after yarn. But the dark truth is much older. Noah's flood was only the most recent global destruction. Our memory is quite a bit older, and we have secrets that you can barely imagine, you Tremere who fancy yourself wizards. We would show you warlocks, ancient beyond your imagining, and systems of magic, dark beyond your comprehension."
Sounds interesting and plausible, but I have no immediate ambitions to grow my own power base, and what the Ivory Tower provides is, frankly, better. At least for me. and at least for now. I mean no offense. But perhaps if I could get your name, we could speak more openly about this at some point in the future. I do feel a shifting and the changing of the winds, and perhaps there'll be more reason to speak later.
He smiles and says, "You can call me Sade." And he reaches out to shake your hand and says, "It was a pleasure to meet you." Sort of tilts his head to the side and smiles like he didn't expect anything different, but decided to try this avenue anyway. And he says, "I have a feeling we'll be meeting again. Enjoy your evening. The night is young. Make the most of it." He smiles and says, "And if you ever need a favor, remember, you know who to ask." And he hands you a business card with his name and number on it.
I bow. Michael, don't forget your manners.
I bow as well.
As we turn to go, I kind of, lean into Michael. Another group, followers of Set. They claim ancient sorceries, but as you may now feel from whatever it is that you just drank, they're no more than pushers.
All right.
And you know what Steppenwolf said about the pushers.
So as
The song reference.
Sarah begins to go on and play her set of electronic dance music, and you guys continue to mix and mingle with the crowd, do you guys want to put a chapter pause here?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine.
That works for
All
me.
right.
I want to go back and spend another 6 hours on the talisman.
All right. So you return back to your lair, and you bring Michael with you, and you guys depart from the nightclub?
Yep.
All right. So you return without issue to your office in the Chantry House of the Tremere in Cascadia University, and you resume work on your talisman, and Michael can do whatever he wants during that period of time.
I guess I could continue trying to look at the lore and see if I can get any more information.
All right, so you continue to study the books in the library of the Tremere Chantry House. Shad continues working on the talisman, and we'll put a chapter pause here. Thank you guys so much for playing. So you guys both get 6 points of experience, and you can add that to your experience points now. You can spend it now or later. Thank you for playing. Thanks for anybody who listened, and we'll continue this campaign. Does anyone have any questions, comments, anything before we close the recording?
Nope.